Today's topic is composition important in photography? This came from a question Yogesh posed in our last open discussion. Many people consciously create a well composed picture, but most others click a picture, then try their hand either in the Lightroom or a Photoshop and try to recompose these pictures. Still others manage to create wonderful images which tries to stick to no rules of composition but still feels very attractive to viewers. So his question was whether a composition is really important in photography, or you create a image and then decide, okay, this is the composition. So my little talk today, I'll be going through this and then we'll keep it open for discussion. So a brief talk about why composition is important, and you can go ahead. Remember, I'll be recording this conversation, and in case if somebody has objection to that, they can leave the room. The reason for recording this is simple: that there are a lot of people who are interested to listen, and sometimes they may not be able to come to this clubhouse. So I thought I'll post it as a audio recording later somewhere, either in WhatsApp or on Facebook. So there are elements in the photograph which can make a photograph attractive without having actually good composition. You know, nicely a smiling child can evoke a feeling of passion, and that's not saying that that photograph is well composed, but it's very well attractive to most of you. Still others try to force composition on an image which is already captured by forcing all the rules like rules of third, golden ratio, and whatnot. Leading lines is another one which again, very easy to do with the cropping tool. So that is how you force a composition on an already taken photograph and make it so-called attractive or artistic. Now, if you go back to the history of composition, it's not new. 24,000 years back, if we see the composition on the cave paintings of the Paleolithic era, even at that time, there were compositions. Unlike photographers, painters usually started the whole idea of composition, but they start with a blank canvas where they can arrange elements inside the canvas the way they want. So unless you're doing something like a portrait or a studio portrait or a still life photography, you don't start with a blank canvas. In photography, the canvas is already there in front of you, and it's in that rectangle 4:3 shape. And the only way you can compose a photograph is by making your the elements that appear in your image arranged in a particular way to create a feeling of emotion. It can lead the viewer's eye in a certain way, project your idea, simply create most visually appealing picture. Sometimes that means actually moving either your subjects or objects, or actually you moving with the camera, so that the final image, the objects appear in a frame in a certain way. While photography on its own right, and there is really no rules in case of art, there are no rules in case of composition. There are, however, techniques you can follow to help you create good composition. When I tell this, that there are no rules, and you go on the internet and you see thousands of rules which are really told by so many of the photographers, you might be wondering, So Edward Weston once said, good composition is merely a strongest way of seeing. Internet as well as teachers of composition have sprung all over the world and started dictating so-called rules of composition. Remember, we are doing photography and not engineering. The rules are designed to make things accurate, predictable, and repeatable. Pretty much opposite what we would want in a photograph, which should be interesting, surprising, and well appreciated photograph. So why people go for this rules of composition? It is when you don't understand how to make a picture good, you follow those rules and think that you are going to get a great photograph. The rules of composition are always hot and divisive topic. Some stick to them adamantly while others act like they don't exist, or most probably they don't know that they exist. And the first group, the former group, can be difficult to break away from, because once you get stuck to that rule of thirds or other rules, you find it very difficult to come out of it. And the next group will explore all kinds of composition ideas but never get to that. So these two groups always exist with us, and I have felt myself like rules of composition just a attempt to explain the composition to someone who doesn't really intuitively understand it. If you look at hundreds of randomly selected photographs, definitely you will get good composition, and we can find some commonality within those compositions. Like you can say that they approximately fit into some rule, and the amount of rules what we have is that it's almost infinite. The problem with acknowledging something as rule is that some photographers constrain their composition always to comply with that. And that, I feel, is the pitfall of most of the photographers. And there are others who equally foolishly make conscious attempts to break it and in the way ruin it. So let's go back to composition. Composition is not really only for photography. The term composition applies to all visual arts, but to music, dance, literature, virtually any other kind of art, it will excel. In certain contexts, for example, in writing, the term is not widely used. In the school they used to say, make a composition. That's nothing to do with this composition. But it's valid. Even in writing, it's a valid term. In general, the composition has two distinctive and yet related meanings. The first and the foremost, composition describes placement of a relative subject and elements in a work of art. So consequently, composition is a key aspect of a good work of art. There is hardly a way of overemphasizing the importance of composition. So any aspiring artist ought to give a composition, his work, a lot of attention. A good composition is the one that has got enough details, because if there are too few elements, they are bad. It robs the work of art of necessary detail that makes correct interpretation of that particular art possible. It also ruins the balance in the image, and to many, elements can be very distracting if you have too many elements. I've seen people packing a picture with lot of different compositional rules, a single image with a lot of rules. But a good composition basically requires a good balance between these two. There is too few rules, too few elements, and too many elements. It is best to make sure that all elements present in the picture give an idea of the story that the person who is capturing that trying to pass it on to the viewer. In some cases, composition makes a work of art itself. For example, if when we are talking about a specific installation or a dance, in other art forms, a phrase called composition can be easily used. This composition can, and so on. So, such a definition, even though widely applies to other art forms, doesn't apply much to the photography. And since we are restricting ourselves to photography, now let me come to general terms of a definition of a composition in case of photography. It's not too hard to figure out. In fact, people make it so complicated. The composition is something. Simply put, composition is an image arranging elements within it in the way it suits the core idea or a goal what you want to work with. How do you arrange elements? Moving subjects or moving the camera. The good example is portrait, still life photography. Here you have a freedom to arrange the subject exactly how you want. Whereas if you take a street photographer, even there we can get a good composition because it involves anticipation. And since the photographer doesn't usually have a choice of moving his subjects, he has to wait for them to come to a most suitable position within the frame and then click. So that's how uh, the street photography can get into that same compositional way. Now another way is to arrange these elements by changing your own position. This is the most important part in a landscape photography, where you won't be able to change the landscape, but you can physically move within the landscape to a position where you get all the elements aligned as you want. So it's a way of guiding viewer's eye towards the most important element in the composition, in the work, and that itself is a composition. So it's a very specific order as a photographer you'll be putting across to the audience. Now, why do you want to do that? Why can't you just go lift the camera to your eye and just click? A good composition can help make a masterpiece even out of the dullest subjects or a plainest of the environment. On the other hand, if you have a bad composition, it can ruin the photograph completely, despite you are having the best camera, best lighting, best so many other things. A composition is the most important. So a poorly judged composition is not something you can usually fix in post processing. A lot of people think I can go to Photoshop and then fix it. I can crop it and fix it. It's not. The Photoshop and Lightroom and such editing softwares can do some simple tricks. For example, exposure, white balance and all those things can be corrected. But moving the subject, which even though it can be done, but it is not natural. So cropping can sometimes save your image, tighter, but most of the time what it does is a tighter framing, and it removes certain portions which you don't want. That's all. But it can't alter the composition. So that's why your choice of composition before capturing the image is the utmost important. And while I'm talking about composition, the several elements also involved with it. For example, the focal length of the lens what you are using, the aperture what you are using, the angle of view what you are using, also gives you that, also affects that composition. For example, if you are choosing a wider aperture, you will blur the background, blur the foreground, effectively lessening the importance of the object which are placed in the middle. So it will more often not result in more noticeable vignetting, corner shading, which will help keep a viewer's eye inside the frame for a longer time. Composing an image eventually becomes very natural process. With it requires a practice, and in fact, there is no substitute for this particular thing in photography. With enough practice, mind you, there can never be too much of such a thing called practice. You will not even have to think about placement of the element. They just come subconsciously. Your subconscious will do that for you. Your fingers will dial that correct setting. Your eye will guide the framing. So the only way I can say that the way to get good composition is practice. Poor composition instantly appears unnatural and it's plain wrong to you. Now one more thing is to understand this poor composition. Lot of times we are under impression it's like our own baby. So a bad composition, even though it's bad, there are some in your friends group will appreciate it, and then you start falling for it. So the poor composition will instantly appear unnatural, plain wrong to those with the discerned eye. The more experience you have, the better choices you will make. So the best way to grow as a photographer is not to rush your decisions, not to trust your subconscious unquestionably, but to learn a new way of composing your image. So I'm not telling that you shouldn't trust your guts. You should, of course, but make sure that also give a thought, experiment, take few shots, analyze them during post processing, see what works best, and try to understand why and then experiment some more, practice some more, get lot of bad images until you get a good image. uh, okay, before I conclude, one may assume that good composition is the one which is most pleasing to the eye. No, this is what my friends usually used to tell me. Uh, but the goal is not to show object in a very flattering, aesthetic, pleasing manner all the time. I find that that particular opinion over the years, it's not really true. Not every work of art has to be, pleasing or beautiful. Some artists try to express differently. They have a stronger ideas, stronger subjects, as well as stronger compositions. For example, an artist want a viewer to feel uncomfortable or nervous. He will choose a composition that is least natural and come up with something unexpected and shocking. I'll give an example of a very popular Danish Siddiqui who recently got shot in Afghanistan. That's a good example of his work on a war photography as well as other conflict areas. Now, the photographer often tries there to help the viewer feel how terrifying or destructive the war is. On the other hand, he will also portray war victims as a very flattering and disturbingly beautiful. So that way, war's ugly nature in a grotesque and a sarcastic manner, they will be showing. So in the end, the goal of a good composition is basically to help express your idea, the idea of the artist, with the necessary means, and there I rest. So, if you have any questions, doubts, please do ask.
While people try to come up with questions, Babu sir, would you like to add something to what Krishi sir had shared with everybody?
Uh, Thank you, Girish. Thank you, sir. Krishna, sir. Actually, I was totally amazed by the explanation which you have given so far. Basically speaking, in my experience, I never thought of these things in my lifetime. In the photography field is concerned. When I entered the photography field, I just took the camera, as you said. I just took the camera. I just clicked whatever the things I feel like. I feel like good. It attract you, something like that. Then what happened in the time moves on, when the people saw my photograph, they used to inform me that it is good compared to other photographers. Your photograph is good. Then I started to analyze the photograph myself by seeing what is good in my photographs, how far I can stand apart from other people. Then I started to notice that I'm looking at the light, I'm looking at the angle, what you so called the composition, each and everything. I used to uh, observe each and everything for myself. Then I came to know, I started to follow the light. When I started to follow the light, as you say in the landscape photography, then the scouting, the following the light, then the composition. Normally speaking, to be very frank with you, when I started this photography, I never knew we have a section called what the composition. Only thing we know is the rule of third is the only thing we came to know. Then I added myself in my addition, in my knowledge, the repetitions, negative space, the balancing the element, the symmetry, the depth of field, the viewpoint, the filling the frame, the right side or left side rules, or the rule of arts, so on and so forth. So everything I used to try myself and improve myself. So what I feel is that whenever it's something like, what I can say is, it just triggers in my mind. When I see a scene, it just triggers in my mind, and I took a camera, I'll frame myself and I shoot it up. When I show the photographs to some experts, some photographers, then they will analyze, oh, this is symmetry shot. Yeah, this negative space is very well taken. He has balancing the elements is very fantastic. The color combination is very nice. Leading lines are going like this, very nice. Then I came to the, wow, wow. When I'm taking the photographs, I never thought of these things. I took the shot as it is. When I like the shot, I just took the shots. Then the experts will explain me how it is good. So by that way, I learned the composition. Then I started to think in their manner. Then I learned almost all kinds of depth of field, triangles, or diagonals, or simplicity, the framing, the frame within the frame, the symmetry, what it may be. Then I, as sir said, then I started to analyze the each and every photos of what I took. Then, as you said, I agree with him. You cannot go to some place and play some third role or some golden triangle or some depth of layers or symmetry. You cannot plan it and shoot it. I think it's something like it just happens in your mind and you just click it up. When the experience counts on your on the way of your experience counts on, then you will try to see which is the angle is good, how I can better compose this by scouting the area, something like that. You can go for that. Basically what I feel is that the photographs which is good means it should hold the viewer's attention at least minimum for a 10 to 12 seconds. No, the viewer should think, wow, it's good, then why it is good, why it is attracting me. So I feel in my point of view the composition is very much important once you learn the photography, because normally everybody will do the photography. Whenever you like something, they will shoot it up. Normally normal people, then they will analyze, then the analyzation comes, then the photography composition rules will come, rule of the repetitions, a negative space, color, the different focusing patterns, depth of field. Day by day by day they keep on learning. The people who gonna keep on learning each and everything, then they will place it up the things in a proper manner. That's where the composition comes. Then they will improve it. Then as you say, as sir said, the step by step will go to the the eternity of photography, what we can call the creating the masterpieces. So that's what I feel. So it's come through the experience, then once again the upgrading yourself, then analyzing the photograph, what's wrong with it and how we're supposed to compose it, and how far how other people are not composing it, what is the best part in this and the best part in that. So the composition is I think it's a learning process throughout the life of photography, I feel.
Yes, sir. Yes, Babu sir. I think it's really, we all have innate way of understanding composition. Every human being has that method. Somewhere it gets suppressed. Either somebody says, okay, whatever you are doing it is wrong or correct, not correct. Then it'll vanish. But I think every human being has its born compositional idea. Then comes selectively improving some of them. How do you improve what? It's either you can use even unknowledgeable non-photography friends, just give them an album and ask them to just go through it. As you just said, few seconds, if they stop on particular photograph, note that particular photograph, that photograph has something to say, and that's one which is good in composition. Then you start noting down, okay, these photographs are the ones where the composition is good. Then you analyze why those compositions good. If you get an expert, if you get a good mentor who can tell you the composition and explain you in terms of where you place these subjects, what are the lines, how the lines really convey the message, all those things, then it's fantastic. Or like how I did, I went through art books and started learning about composition from art history, as well as going through that and then trying to apply that in my photographs, and then coming out with few photographs, again showing to my friends. Some of them said they like this, they like that. Then I started analyzing why they like those pictures, and so on. I mean, it's a never ending process. Still I'm learning, and I'll learn till my last breath. Yeah, anybody else want to speak, ask questions?
Yeah. I mean, Krishi, it was actually interesting listening to both you and Babu sir. And while Babu sir was speaking, there was a particular question that cropped up in my mind. He was referring to light. Now, the way I approach is, I've always seen photography as an amalgamation of two sections, which is, one is the technicalities, and the other is the aesthetics. When we say aesthetics, basically we are talking referring to composition, right? So when we talk about light, uh, would you club it with the technicalities, or would you take it into the aesthetics, that is the composition part of photography?
Okay. In the reason why I took composition as the first topic of our series of talks is that in photography the technicality is now overwhelmingly high. Everybody talks about lenses and cameras and which camera can give you a fantastic picture, but it's a tool. So if you want to cut a piece of wood, you can have, golden axe, silver axe, or stainless steel axe, or iron axe, whatever it is. But basically, it's a tool. So, photo for photography, I think learning two parts. The light is a very important part. That's a part of, the word photography itself. The photo is the light, whereas the light itself conveys the elements in the picture, and without light you don't have a picture. So where you place your light on the elements within the photograph makes the picture. So light is important, and how much and where you place the light, how do you place the light, which is very important in genres like portrait photography, landscape photography. All those things really help with that, and even still life and product photography. So light is also important, but the light itself at the end gives the composition, because you can't have a haphazard light and it basically end up in a composition. So how do you place your light is important, and that's a part of the composition.
Thank you for that clarification, Krishi. That really made sense. And welcome, Bilal. Do you have any question to ask?
Hi. What I do usually when I'm taking a photograph is I zoom out a little bit more than the frame which I have in my mind, so that if there's slight error like alignment or I have to crop out something, I can do it later. Otherwise, if I mean, the picture which I get in my mind, if I tightly shoot the same frame, there are chances of missing out something. So that is one thing which I got over experience. Krishnamon sir, do you have any other such thing which you do so that we reduce the error when we are taking a photograph?
I
I
think
mean,
the
while composing.
I think the practice will give you much more experience in this aspect, because uh, okay, your idea is fine, leaving out the space, but trying to crop later, you might end up in cropping in a different way as what you really thought at the beginning. Having said that, many a times when I shoot a photograph, I have a different idea, and I don't immediately post process them. So keep you know I keep the photograph for a while, till I get out of the idea which I really went in to take the photograph. Especially in wildlife and macro photography, when I go there, I have some different ideas. When I sit again in front of the computer, try to edit that particular photograph, I get totally different ideas. So if I do it immediately, as soon as I come back from the shoot, I find it sometime, I just follow that same rule. But if I leave for a few days, it'll sort of germinate within itself and come out with a different idea. So for that to happen, you need to give some space. So I think your cropping idea is very good. I think Satyaprakash has raised his hand, but unfortunately I am not able to. Uh,
I actually did invite
yeah,
him. Uh,
I'm not able
uh,
to allow him
I
to.
have let me invite him again
Yeah.
so that he can accept and come into the speakers panel. Satyaprakash sir,
Okay, I have one thing to clarify. Since we can zoom out a bit so that we can crop it out later, one thing what happens is the perspective changes when we zoom out. So even if we crop the picture later, that will be a completely different picture than composing the same frame zooming in. So
Exactly.
that one thing we need to keep in mind.
Because when you're zooming using a lens, the perspective
Yeah,
changes. But if you
yeah,
zoom with your feet, then the perspective doesn't change.
yeah. So take if someone has a frame, I think it's better if they take both the frames and compare it,
Yes.
because directly zooming out might give a slightly different perspective.
So any other questions?
Yeah,
Anybody
so
one
just
else wants to raise your hand? Just.
Uh, Hello.
Hello. Tell me, Shru.
Uh, I just was wondering if there are any uh, books or photographs that we can take a look at, uh, excuse
And
me, to understand composition better, because I think the kind of exposure that we have also might make a difference. Because mm, to a very great extent, initially while I was photographing, I was drawn towards images where the subject was right in the middle. But then over time, I was exposed to a few images which had different kinds of composition, and that's how I realized it. So, are there any other uh, any platforms where we can get exposed to different kinds of composition and study better?
okay. Uh, Thanks for bringing out that particular idea. Whenever we start with the the composition and photography, we always end up in placing the subject right at the center, and then somebody says there is such thing as a rule of thirds, and the rule of thirds, it's like a tic tac toe grid, and one of those corners of the tic tac toe grid is the ones where it's much more pleasing. uh, it's good starting point for exploring composition. Then there are umpteen number of such rules are there. I usually tend people not to go by the rules, but keep it somewhere very close to that rule. Don't stick to that rule, the like keeping it exactly on the grid and trying to take photographs. That sometimes will not be really interesting. Okay, there are a lot of books. In fact, if you search for composition, there are umpteen number of books as well as lot of uh, articles on internet. Just search for photography composition. You'll get close to about say 100 different compositions. 25 great composition, 10 great compositions, 100 must have composition, that sort of thing. Uh, in fact, in our creative focus, we have workshops which are being conducted, and those workshops we are exploring compositions and lighting and all those things. So as of now, using Clubhouse, it's very difficult to show photographs because it's auditory media. Probably in
Yes.
some sort of Zoom and that sort of thing, I should be able to do it.
Okay. Thank you,
Um,
sir.
Thank you.
to add to what Krishi mentioned, like I said, there are lots and lots of books available. One of the good books that I have come across is a book called The Art of Composition by an author called Bruce Birnbaum. You can actually have a look at these. There are excerpts available of these books on the internet. You could go through them and pick the ones that you feel comfortable with. So yes, there are quite a few avenues from where you can learn about composition.
Uh, okay, one question: which genre of photography are you following? Like, if the specific, only one book which I've read so far is a book named. Okay, one sec. Uh, okay, give me 1 second. I had it in my mind, I just forgot it right now.
Yeah, sure.
I just check my playbooks and I'll get it.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah,
It's a book by Lindsay Adler. Oh, okay, I'll tell it later.
yeah, sure.
So you can continue with.
Satyaprakash sir,
Yeah, can you hear me?
yeah, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, okay. First of all, it's very novel platform. You are sharing it. I'm good that I'm just part of this group, and there are no slides. It's only audio discussion, Krishna Mohan.
Yeah, it is only audio. That's
Uh,
beauty of Clubhouse. There is no way I can put pictures or this thing. The only pictures are our own mugshots. What you see in
okay,
the
fine. So anyway, see, anyway, you started as a rules for composition, and then you cut down your own argument that there are no rules also, but there is no rules for being a creative, and that's how the things will evolve naturally. So, is there any different rules for composition when you're taking a black and white picture versus color? And also, is there any composition is important in small videos, or is it the entire thing is left to the photographer to impress upon the audience?
okay. In black and white, there are
Yeah.
some different rules than that of color, because in color itself can be used as a rule. So placing a particular color against background of another color can be used as one of the rules. Whereas
Okay.
in black and white, you have different shades of black and white. They call it a zonal
Okay.
system. So about 10 different zones are there, and using those zones, you can place a particular black and white with another zone which is surrounding it, and then separating it from the other. So that way you don't mix up your background and foreground. You make your foreground really stand out, and you make sure that your eyes really follow. See, at the end of the day, composition is basically leading your eye within the photograph. So
Yeah. Yeah.
so to do that, you have to try different methods of how do you make the eye follow it. And for black and white, the rules are totally different from that of in the color. Some rules are same, like the rule of thirds or diagonals, and they are in both the places. But when we are using color as such to define our composition, then I think the rules that don't really follow that uh, uh, the same rule in the black and white. So this is
Is it,
one.
okay?
Yeah.
Is it easier to play with only two shades, gray, black and gray and white, versus multiple colors in the color picture, Krishna Mohan?
In fact, black and white is not, even though we say that it's black and white, if you have a pure black and white, just two shades, it's just black and just white. It's very difficult to really do. You can do it in what's called a minimalism type of pictures, but aesthetically, it's extremely challenging as far as
Yeah.
to present the picture. It's the shades of
Yes.
gray.
Yes.
So whether it's
Yeah.
50 shades of gray or 256 shades of gray, it's up to you. So that's basically what the black and white is basically. Now coming to your second question, telling whether it's different in video or different in photograph. Video has more of a horizontal framing. Even though now
Okay.
Instagram and other mobile phones give you vertical framing videos, most of the videos are horizontal. So you are constrained with that proportion. That's the only difference. Most of the compositions which are done for the photographs can also be applied to video, but video has a different grammar as well as nuances, which most of the time not there in photograph. Remember, in a photograph you can go and stare it for a few seconds, but in video
Hmm.
it's a fleeting moment, and video tells you a story, whereas a photograph, without talking, without doing anything, has to tell a story. So there is a vast difference between a photograph and a video. So don't combine these two. These two are totally different genres, and I've seen
Oh.
a lot of videographers who become a photographer struggle, and the other way around also. Like for example, if you give me a video, I still struggle, because for me the experience in video is very very minimal compared to that in a photograph.
Yeah. Yeah. I got the point.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
ಸರ್, ಬೇರೆ ಯಾವ್ದಾದ್ರು
Uh,
ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಕೇಳೋದಿದ್ರೆ ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು ಕೈ ಎತ್ತಿ ಕೇಳ್ಬೋದು.
Sir, sorry for the interruption.
Okay.
That book's name is The Photographer's Guide to Posing Techniques to Flatter something. It's a book by Lindsay Adler.
Okay.
But it's a very good book. But one thing is, like, I read the complete book, but I did not shoot anything much after that, especially the lights. So it was, I can say, end of the day, it was just 5% of learning. So I would say it's better to attend a workshop and try hands-on than reading a book, whatever you have to do. You can try the book, but end of the day, I think unless we practice and attend live sessions, books won't help that much. Like, read the book, but practice, that's main, I guess. You can try out that book. It was a very good book. I always want to recommend it to someone. Since you asked, yeah, I'm just saying.
Yeah, Bilal, actually, when we talk about posing, that's very specific to portraiture and fashion, where we shoot people. So that is one part of composition. So, it's like uh, something which is very specific to a particular genre, as you mentioned earlier. So I think when we talk about composition as a whole, there is a lot more to it than posing, because posing is very specific to how the person or the model, stands and holds his limbs or looks at the camera, at what angle he's turned and all those things. Composition would also look at where the model is positioned in the frame and so on and so forth. So there is a lot more to composition when we talk about posing. So
Exactly.
posing is a very specific part of composition.
Yeah, I agree with it. But yeah, why I just like that book particular reason is I used to try to follow the composition rules when I was taking someone's picture, but I used to be very bad at telling them how to pose. So the result finally used to be kind of bad, even though the composition was good. So I just wanted it to say that this
Yeah,
one particular book.
yeah, it's actually a good book because I have followed Lindsay Adler for a very long time now, and she's a
Yeah,
fantastic photographer when it comes to portraiture and fashion. She's really good.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's definitely a very good book. There's no denying that, Bilal. And thank you for
yeah,
sharing that.
Thank-
yeah. And good, good. Welcome.
Babu sir, you wanted to say something? Please go ahead, sir.
No, no. Actually, when Bilal was talking, I was thinking of what exactly he is saying about. You're talking about which genre of photography he was talking about actually, because when he says that he composed first, then he cropped it up in the post processing is concerned, I was a bit confused because what is my maybe maybe it's his style. What is my style is when I'm shooting something, maybe it's a portrait or a landscape, whatever it may be. I wanted to figure it out as and when it's itself. While shooting itself, I wanted to frame it up very clearly what exactly I wanted to see. Because before shooting anything, before placing my camera or before placing my tripod, I'll figure out in my mind what exactly I am wanted to shoot and what is my frame. So then I once again go through my camera viewfinder. Then if I'm satisfied with my composition or the falling of light, whatever it may be, each and everything, when I composition is concerned, when I'm happy, then only I click it up. Otherwise I'll do scouting, and I'll go different angles, different types, different composition matters. Maybe it's horizontal, yeah, vertical, yeah, tilt down, yeah, tilt up, whatever it may be, depending upon subject. So scouting is the most important, mentally and physically, depending upon the situation. Then we have to suppose to shoot it up. That's what my style is. Then I wanted to minimize the post processing is concerned. The composition should be done as per in my knowledge. It should be done within the camera itself. I think it will be the better thing, what I feel, and I'm just practicing it. Maybe I might be wrong, but I'll take a lot of shots with different angles. So then I can compare myself with all the shots, all the angles, and I can see which one is the best and why it is best. So if that is the case, if I go in future with the same kind of situation, so that I can easily identify where I can stand, where I can go for it, and which will be the best shots for me. So this is what my style and my kind. I hope I'm not interpreting anybody's ideas.
No, I think it's a very accurate way of learning how to compose in camera is one of the best way of doing it, because there are a few points in a camera composition. One thing, it gives you just that frame, okay, that 4 is to 3, that aspect. The second thing is, it will make you think while you're clicking. Most of the time what we do is we click and then we think. So if you're practicing like what Babu just mentioned, that trying to compose the final image right on the camera, few things really click together. One is the overall frame, what to leave out from the frame. You see, many people have this biggest problem is what to include and what to leave out. That's why they go to the Photoshop, then where they take everything quite large, and then start cropping out, so that their 20 or 24 megapixel photograph will become 4 megapixel at the end. So that's not really a good way. The second thing what happens is the depth of field changes when you're cropping. So overall picture will look totally different in if you really compose it in that way, in a close up, rather than taking a group shot and then cropping it out. So Babu, what you are doing is right. Keep doing that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
If anyone has questions, please raise your hand so that we can bring you to the speakers panel. So while we wait for people to come up with questions, I just wanted to bring up another thing, another aspect of composition. Now, like Krishi shared earlier, we can go through various resources to learn about composition. But at the same time, what I've also believed is that subconsciously we are all aware of it somehow or the other. There are some things that we like, and there are some things that we don't like. So sometimes, though we may not be conscious of some of the rules, we do follow it because innately we are aware that this is what would look good. So that is another aspect of composition. uh, we kept we keep getting better at it when, like Krishi, we put in efforts to understand why such a particular composition would be preferred over other kinds of compositions, or what does a composition really mean, or what does it convey. Because at the end of the day, when we want a photograph to be viewed by a person, you know the person who is viewing it should be wowed, is what we always strive for. If that has to happen, the more we understand, the better we get at it. So in that sense, uh, both the subconscious and the conscious mind, if they work together, the results are that much better.
Yeah, Girish. So even if you don't have a camera in hand, whenever you are in a place where you think there are compositions, start planning for a composition with your mind's eye. Sitting in the bus stand, just watching for the bus to come, I would be doing, if I had my camera in my hand, I would have clicked this, I would have clicked this, and all that goes on in your mind all the time, and that will sharpen your reflexes. So when you really see the scene, you'll be able to, immediately catch it and click it.
That's a good idea, sir. That's a really good idea. Of course, I do agree with you, Girish. What you said is 100% right. That's a eye for a photographer, what we call normally. So when you see some scenario, unknowingly you will be knowing that this frame will be the best. This
Best.
composition will be the best. I feel the other way around. To be very frank, I feel something other way around for the beginners and as a professionals also. If you know what is a triangle, what is diagonals, what is the patterns, what is symmetry, what is the frame in frame, what is leading lines. Sometimes we may get in confused if we go to some place to shoot. Then we'll keep on thinking, shall I go for a reflection, shall I go for a diagonal, or shall I go for a the balancing the elements, or negative space, or something like that. I think better thing is that go with your intuition. What your mind says, what is your eye sees first, what is your mind holds you first. Then you compose according to your mind first, then you go for a rules. What I finally wanted to say is that you must know the rules, because you are the one who's going to break it. So enjoying of breaking it, before that you must know what is the rules, then you can have the enjoyment of the photography, what I feel.
Yes, sir. There's one small uh, question which I always used to have. Whenever you go into the internet, they'll give you the hundreds of rules, and if you follow this rule, you'll definitely get a, a good picture. That is where I find the fault. Not following the rule is not going to give you the great picture. Knowing the rule and putting your elements in that particular rule will give you a better picture. If i if you get my point, because trying to fit a rule to a subject is not going to really give you a picture. Finding the rule in that particular subject arrangement is the one which gives you a better picture. So if there is any question from others.
Shruti, I thought you wanted to ask something earlier. Uh, you can go ahead and ask if you have any question.
No, I was just saying thank you for the answers. Sorry.
Oh, sure. You're most welcome. No problem.
Welcome.
Anybody else have a question? Please raise your hands so that we can bring you to the speakers panel.
Jinesh, Okay, what's the topic for next meeting? Any suggestions?
Sir, let us just pick some topic from today's session, something which was extra out of today's topic.
Sure, Bilal. Hello, Muralidharan sir. Welcome. And I think you have a
Hello.
question. Please go ahead.
Not a question. For next topic, I thought this getting the focus right is always a problem. I mean, for me, I thought if uh, is
Yes,
there any topic on that means it will be better.
it can be covered. Absolutely no issues. If
Thank you, sir. Yeah.
if others have any other suggestions, please go ahead and subsequent classes. So we'll be doing a session every Wednesday at between 8 and 9 p.m.
So one more topic, what I can say is that the DX format and the FX format, is it really matters? That's what we can take it
Okay, that's a little technical, but I'll cover all three formats, like the full frame, whether it's worth going for full frame, whether it's worth going for a medium format, whether it's worth going for APS-C, or whether we're worth going for Micro Four Thirds. So now we have 4 formats available now, so we can go through in each one of them and the pros and the cons of each one of them.
So we can also add,
Mobile phones.
is it, yeah, mobile phones, like buying a expensive phone or a decent phone plus a camera, point and shoot.
I think it's very common a question, and I think there are a lot of resources, unfortunately. So yeah, we can cover absolutely no issues, but I try to refrain from this, tutu meme, as far as these technical aspects are concerned. At the end of the day, technically it doesn't matter. In fact, I have 2 varied type of cameras. I have a full frame, and I have a Micro Four Thirds. For some, I use Micro Four Thirds, and for some, I use full frame. I don't find any difference between one or the other. So I've already given my answer for the next session, but I'll explain.
So one more topic we can speak about is I mean, the inbuilt cameras color processing and shooting a raw and processing it later.
Okay, yeah, that's I think somewhere very low in my priority, uh, because I usually expect everybody to shoot in raw and process it, then giving a camera the easy way of doing it. You do it when you don't have any expectations out of the camera, then shoot in JPEG. Other than that, the camera gives you the best option of shooting in raw, and take a little effort and develop a color you want than what the camera gives. We can cover it in one of the sessions.
Bilal, in a way, yeah, I mean, Bilal, it's something similar to me giving you a 1 kg of rice with a few vegetables, salt, and all the spices, and you making a dish for yourself, or someone else preparing the dish for you and giving it to you. So at the end of the day, if you're very clear as to what you want as the final product, we would be better off, using the raw materials that is given to us by the camera in the form of a raw file, and developing it the way we want. So in a way, it's also a question of what do we want to use the final end product, which is the image, the edited image, for. So that should actually help in deciding how you want to go about it.
Yeah, I agree with.
Muralidhar, please tell me, sir.
ಸರ್ ನಮಸ್ತೆ. ನಾನು ಪ್ರಿಯಾ
Namaste.
ಮುರಳಿ, ನಮ್ದು ಪುತ್ತೂರಿಂದ ಛಾಯಾಕುಟಿ ಸ್ಟುಡಿಯೋ. ಕೃಷ್ಣಮೋಹನ್ ಸರ್, ನಾನು ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತಾಡ್ಬೋದು
ಮಾತಾಡಿ
ಅಂತಿದ್ರೆ
ಮಾತಾಡಿ
ಮಾತಾಡ್ತೀನಿ.
ಮಾತಾಡಿ.
Okay. ನಾವೀಗ ಫೋಟೋಸ್ ತೆಗೆಯುವಾಗ ಕಂಪೋಸಿಂಗ್ ರೂಲ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಫಾಲೋ ಮಾಡ್ತೇವೆ. ಆದ್ರೆ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟಾಗ್ರಾಮಿಗೆ ಅಥವಾ ಸೋಷಿಯಲ್ ಮೀಡಿಯಾಗೆ ಹಾಕ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಆ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟಾಗ್ರಾಮ್ನವ್ರದ್ದು ಅದೊಂದು ಬೇರೆ ಸೈಜ್ ಇರ್ತದೆ. ಅದು ನಮ್ಮ ಕಂಪೋಸಿಗೆ ಅಷ್ಟು ಸೂಟ್ ಆಗುದಿಲ್ಲ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ನಾವು ಪೋಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡುವಾಗ. ಸೊ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಅದು ಯಾವ ರೂಲ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಅವರು ಸೆಟ್ ಮಾಡಿರ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂತ ನನ್ನ ಡೌಟ್.
ಓಕೆ, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟಾಗ್ರಾಮಲ್ಲಿ ಮೇಯ್ನ್ಲಿ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಅ ಸ್ಕ್ವೇರ್ ಫಾರ್ಮ್ಯಾಟ್. ಸೊ ಸ್ಕ್ವೇರ್ ಫಾರ್ಮ್ಯಾಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲದಿದ್ದರೂ 4/3 ಈಗ ತೆಗೊಳ್ತದೆ. ನೀವು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಫಸ್ಟಿಗೆ ಫೋಟೋ ಹಾಕುವಾಗ ಕೆಳಗಡೆ ಒಂದು ಆ್ಯರೋ ಮಾರ್ಕ್ ಇರ್ತದೆ. ಇಫ್ ಯು ಚೂಸ್ ದ ಆ್ಯರೋ ಮಾರ್ಕ್ ನಿಮಗೆ ಯೂಶ್ವಲ್ ವರ್ಟಿಕಲ್ ಫಾರ್ಮ್ಯಾಟಲ್ಲಿ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. ಆದರೆ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಏನಂತ ಹೇಳಿದರೆ ಅದು ಫೋನಿಗಾಗಿ ಮಾಡಿದಂಥ ಒಂದು ಫಾರ್ಮ್ಯಾಟ್. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ವೀಡಿಯೋಸ್ಗಳು ವರ್ಟಿಕಲ್, ಫೋಟೋಸ್ಗಳು ಸ್ಕ್ವೇರ್ ಅಥವಾ ವರ್ಟಿಕಲ್. ಸೊ ನಿಮಗೆ ಹಾರಿಸಾಂಟಲ್ ಫಾರ್ಮ್ಯಾಟಿಗೆ ಅದು ಸೂಟ್ ಆಗುವಂಥದ್ದೇ ಅಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ
ತುಂಬಾ ಕಟ್ಟಾಗಿ
ಹೋಗ್ತದೆ. ಹೌದು, ಕಂಪೋಸಿಷನ್ ಕಟ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ನಿಜವಾಗಿ ಏನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕಂತ ಹೇಳಿದರೆ 2 ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಶೂಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಒಂದು ನೀವು ಇನ್ಸ್ಟಾಗ್ರಾಮಿಗಾಗಿ ಹಾಕುವಂಥ ಒಂದು ಫೋಟೋ ಬೇರೆಯೇ ಕ್ರಾಪ್ ಆಗಬೇಕು, ಮತ್ತು ನೀವು ಉಳಿದ ಫೇಸ್ಬುಕ್ ಅಥವಾ ಬೇರೆ ಮೀಡಿಯಾಕ್ಕೆ ಹಾಕುವಂಥದ್ದು ಅದು ಬೇರೆ ಕ್ರಾಪ್ ಆಗಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಆವಾಗ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಒರಿಜಿನಲ್ ಐಡಿಯಾ ಡೈಲ್ಯೂಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಇನ್ಸ್ಟಾಗ್ರಾಮ್ ಫೋಟೋಗ್ರಾಫರ್ಸ್ ಬರೀ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟಾಗ್ರಾಮಿಗೆ ಮಾತ್ರ ಹಾಕೋದಾದರೆ ಅದು ಆ ಪರ್ಟಿಕ್ಯುಲರ್ ಫಾರ್ಮ್ಯಾಟಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಆ ಕನ್ಸ್ಟೆಂಟಲ್ಲಿ. ನಿಜವಾಗಿ ಸ್ಕ್ವೇರನ್ನು ಆಲೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡಿ, 4:3 ಆಲೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡಬೇಡಿ. ನೀವು ಇನಿಷಿಯಲಿ ಶೂಟ್ ಮಾಡುವಾಗಲೇ ಸ್ಕ್ವೇರಲ್ಲೇ ನಾನು ಫೋಟೋ ತೆಗಿತೇನೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಆಲೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡಿ. ಮೀಡಿಯಮ್ ಫಾರ್ಮ್ಯಾಟ್ ಫೋಟೋಗ್ರಾಫರ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ನಿಜವಾಗಿ ಆ ಟೈಮಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ ಸ್ಕ್ವೇರಲ್ಲೇ ನಾವು ಆಲೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾಯಿದ್ವು. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ 1:1 ರೇಷಿಯೋನ್ನೇ ಇಟ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ, ಅದರ ಒಳಗಡೆ ನೀವು ಕಂಪೋಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ನೋಡಿ. ಸೊ 1:1ಗೆ ತುಂಬ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಕಂಪೋಸಿಷನ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ನಮ್ಮ 4:3 ಥರನೇ ಕಂಪೋಸಿಷನ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಪ್ಲೇಸ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಎಲಿಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಆ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗಿ. ಆದರೆ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದರೆ, ನೀವು ಮತ್ತೆ ಮೊಬೈಲಿಗೆ ಬರುವಾಗ ಆವಾಗ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಸ್ಕ್ವೇರ್ ಫಾರ್ಮ್ಯಾಟ್ ಮಧ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತ್ರ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಆ ಸೈಡ್ ಈ ಸೈಡ್ 2 ಬ್ಲ್ಯಾಕ್ ಲೈನ್ಸ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಆಲ್ವೇಸ್ ಡಿಫಿಕಲ್ಟ್.
ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು.
Krishi, it's 9.
Yeah,
So
I think
if
there is no other
anybody
question,
else has a question, please raise immediately, or we'll be winding up the room very soon.
So thank you everybody. I think we had quite a lot of participation and good number of participants. We crossed about 56 or something at one point. Good. I hope we will get much more. Please tell your friends, ask them to join. So it will be 8 o'clock next Wednesday. I'll tell about the topic, I'll message it. And you can always join in Creative Focus group. So that's a permanent room. So you can always come and join us at 8 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for your kind participation. Thank you, Babu sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Girish. Thank you, Krishna sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Murali.
Thank you everybody.
Thank you.